In this video, I'll provide you a complete guide on how to build no-code AI agents using Relevance AI. I've broken this video down into easy to follow steps, and I'll be sharing with you the entire process that I took to create an AI agent for a real-life use case. And all of this will be done without writing a single line of code. If you're new to the channel, my name is Yash, and I help business owners understand the value that they can get from generative AI solutions and build these out for them. So I've broken this video down into three main parts. And starting off, I'll be providing an overview of what AI agents are, what's the difference between AI agents and chatbots, and the use cases for this. Second part of the video will be focusing on Relevance AI, where I go through the key concepts for the platforms and why I personally like using the platform. And in part three, I'll be sharing with you my entire process that I've taken to build this agent from scratch. So by definition, AI agents are autonomous programs that can sense their digital environment and make decisions and take actions to achieve their specific goals that we've set for them. And when looking at an AI agent, there's really three key things that make up an agent. First one is your prompt, your tools, and your knowledge base. So starting off with the prompt, that's really what defines the identity of the agent. What is its purpose and how is it going to achieve those objectives and the purpose that you've set for it? Tools are, you can think of them as software functions that allow the agents to interact with their environment. And it's really to expand the capability of the agent just beyond the prompt. So it allows them to interact with other parts of the internet via APIs, and you can use these APIs to pull and push information to the agent so it can do a lot more actions than just its baseline prompt that you've given it. And lastly, we've got knowledge bases, which are really important. So you can have your company's information or any other important information that your agent may need, and you store it in the knowledge base, and that's where an agent can pull from it and use it to answer any questions for the users of the agent, or it can use that information and combine it with the tools, and you get more out of your agent. It's able to perform these more complicated functions. Another aspect that I really wanted to cover is agents versus chatbots. Now, ever since the rise of generative AI in the past few years, the hype all started with having these models embedded within chatbots and having these more intelligent chatbots perform all of these actions. So let's break down what is the common difference between a chatbot and an agent. If you look at chatbots, they usually follow predefined scripts and respond to specific inputs. If you've ever built a chatbot before, you'd probably see a diagram like this, where you've got a starting point, and once you get to a decision point, you've got different branches and trees that it follows. If a user says this, then do that. Otherwise, go down this other pathway and take this specific action. They're really useful for handling very simple and task-specific interactions. If you want to build a more complex system, you can build out chatbots with multiple branches, but then that would get very difficult to maintain, and it's just not a good experience for the end user as well if not done right, and it's very easy to break as well. And lastly, it's got very limited opportunities for learning, and it typically relies on predetermined rules as the branches and scripts that you've programmed in. If you want something outside of that, it takes a lot more effort to import that external knowledge into it. Agents, on the other hand, they operate completely autonomously, and they can make decisions based on the prompt that you've given it and the environment that you're in. It's got the ability to think a lot more creatively and independently, and it's not script-based or in any rule-based. They're also capable of handling much more complex tasks than chatbots, which is a huge bonus in comparison. And lastly, agents have the ability to learn and adapt over time. You can update their knowledge bases with new information, and instantly they've got a whole plethora of knowledge that they can use in their tools and tasks and the queries that users may have. Some of the key use cases for AI agents listed here below, starting off with sales and a business development rep. There's a whole heap of sales processes that you can use to build an AI agent to replace a lot of your sales and your business development processes. It's really helpful in processes such as finding and qualifying leads, or doing a lot of that initial research on your leads. Agents are really great at marketing and content generation processes as well, especially content repurposing, or if you want to come up with marketing campaigns or strategies, sending out email campaigns, all that stuff can be automated through agents. Customer support's always a really good use case. Linking your agent with tools and a knowledge base. You set it up for success for answering any complex customer queries. And if not, you can also set it up to have that query then forwarded onto a human team member to resolve. And onboarding clients is also another good use case where you can build out a whole flow end to end, which facilitates them from the first message, guides them through entire processes, and then gets them to the end stage with all their documents onboarded and then ready for you to kick off the project. Now, looking at agents, there's two different types of agents that you can build. You've got the fully autonomous type agents. So an example of this is a sales agent that's capable of researching leads, replying and booking appointments without any human interaction. And the other type is you've got your co-pilot ones. So an example of this is you can have a research agent which is producing research with human input and supervision. So in many cases, the research that the agent may give you is probably not right in the first place. So you have to work with it to refine the content and to get the statistics and everything else that you need to get from it. I really want to stress on the really important point here. Between both of these, so far, we've got a lot of these co-pilot agents. When ChatGPT first came out, you can essentially think of it as a co-pilot agent, as you'd be doing a lot of the interaction with it. It gives you back some response, then you respond back to it, and you're developing your content in conversation with more of the new advancements that we're getting in generative AI. We're getting more and more of these fully autonomous agents. And this is where I personally think is the real value is if you can automate entire business processes without human supervision and it's giving you human-like outputs, you can remove yourself from that process and spend that time in probably the more strategic parts of your business and growing your business. And that's probably a perfect segue to take us into the opportunity for AI agents. So in this, I really see the opportunity for three main groups. So starting off for businesses as a whole, there's huge opportunities for cost saving. So this is going to come from reduced labor costs and operational expenses, where you've got most of these agents doing most of the front work. That's also going to lead to increased efficiency. You're going to get faster, probably more accurate results from processing of these tasks. The next group is your business owners. So they may be, if you're a small business owner, you may be like the founder or the CEO, or even sort of medium businesses. One of the benefits of these agents and the new platforms that are coming out is most of them are no code build. So even if you don't come from a software development background, you can pick this up and start developing these agents to automate different processes in your business. So the barrier to entry has been really reduced with this new technology that's been coming out. And it's also going to give you a major competitive advantage over other businesses in your niche who are not using this tech, as you'll be able to adapt more quickly to market demands and what your customers want. And lastly, we've got the employees who are actually working for these businesses. So on an individual level, they're going to see a lot of time saving, a huge increase in your productivity. They'll be spending less time working on those routine tasks where those tasks could be offloaded to agents and they can work on other things that are going to have higher impact in their roles and for the business itself. And another byproduct of this is improved job satisfaction. So if you've got employees who are working on less mundane tasks, they're more likely to actually enjoy their job and perform better in that, which is going to be better off for the business anyway. Now, I want to spend some time talking about Relevance AI, which is the platform that we're going to be using today to build our AI agent. So the reason why I picked Relevance AI for this video is, firstly, it's a no-code platform, which means the barrier to entry is very low and anyone can pick this up and start using it to create tools and agents. It's quite an easy platform to use with its visual editor. So later on in the video, once I hop into it, I'll show you that it's quite intuitive to use and you don't really need to be from a technical background in order to use this. One of the most important things for an agent is the ability to actually use tools. If you have an agent without tools, it's essentially the same as having ChatGPT. So with tools, you can expand your functionality and get your agent to do more complex tasks. Once you've built out your agent in Relevance AI, it's important to connect it to the outside world and other programs and functions. And Relevance AI has really good external integration, and you can easily connect to all these tools and agents using API connections. Building tools in Relevance AI is pretty straightforward, and you can almost build anything that you want. What I really like about building tools in here is it's rule-based and all in sequence. So you can see step by step what are the actions that are going to happen in a specific tool. It's really good and easy to integrate it to outside applications via its API integration. And for each tool, they also have open API specs. And what that exactly means is if you don't want to actually build agents on Relevance AI, if you want to use an external platform to build your agents, you can build your tools in Relevance AI and then copy the open API spec and paste it into your other platform. And that way, it's going to help you connect your tool with that external platform that you may be using. When creating the tools, you can use variables within the tools itself, and that allows you to save information to these variables and use these variables in different aspects of your tool as well. You can also add knowledge bases within these tools, and each tool can have its own set of knowledge base, which I quite personally like because it lets you isolate your tools and it makes it a bit more niche in terms of your agent to have very specific knowledge, and in some cases can actually increase the accuracy and efficiency of what you may be trying to do. You can also have LM steps. Is essentially you can insert ChatGPT into your tools. You can actually use various different models. It's not just restricted to ChatGPT, and I'll show you how to do this later on in the video. Lastly, you can integrate your tools to many platforms. You can do it through APIs, or it's actually got a few different integrations that you can do directly as well. So you can build single agent and multi-agent systems in Relevance. Starting off, you've got your system prompt, which defines the objectives and the personality of the agent. It's got a flow builder, which is a unique feature. I haven't really seen this in other platforms, where it allows you to determine the flow of how your tools should be used. Normally, this would be defined in the prompt, but this is an additional step that allows you to guarantee greater accuracy in terms of the tasks that you're trying to do. It's got different abilities and labels that you can do, which help you understand what task is being done when, what tool is being used, and adding labels to these makes it a lot more easier to debug or view the logs once an agent has completed working. And you can attach tools to these to get them to do a variety of different things. You can actually expand your single agent systems into multi-agent systems. And the best way to think about this is instead of just having one agent doing all of your things, what you can do is if you've got a really complex business process, you can break that down into multiple different agents. And the benefit of this is it usually helps to get greater accuracy. And sometimes it's just hard to get one agent to do everything. And you sort of share the workload between different agents. When you do have a multi-agent system, they are a combination of single agents. So they'll all have the capabilities of that single agent that you have. And you can actually use agents to trigger other agents. Now I want to talk about the agent that we'll be building in this video. And I've chosen a very specific real life scenario that's very much applicable to small and medium businesses. In this scenario, we've got a small tech consulting company, and the challenge that they're facing is they're getting a huge amount of inbound leads. And this is causing their team to not have enough time to properly research and identify the high ROI leads that they're getting. And this is because they're still a small emerging company. Their sales team is not as big as they'd like it to be. So the solution that we propose to overcome this challenge is we're going to have an AI agent that's going to research all of the inbound leads that are coming in. It's going to perform scoring on them. It's going to prepare a draft response for that specific lead. And then it's going to update the CRM, saving all of this information in a centrally located place. I now want to focus on the agent workflow. So starting off in this example, we're going to have the agent triggered whenever an inbound lead fills out a form on the website. Now, in the real life scenario, you can have this, or you can also have the agent attached to emails. Whenever an email comes in, that's when the agent gets triggered. for the sake of this, we're going to stay with the form. That information is then going to be sent through to HubSpot, where the agent's going to create a record in the CRM. Information is then going to be sent through to Relevance AI. For this particular agent, we're going to be using 3 main tools, and I'm going to show you how to build all of these step by step later on in the video. So the first tool is the research tool. The agent will use all of the lead's information, perform research on the lead itself. So finding out information from their LinkedIn, finding out information about their company, and it's going to use all of that. And it's going to then trigger the second tool, which is it's going to use that information to perform the scoring on that lead to see how valuable it is to the organization. And lastly, it's going to then use all of that information to draft up an email response and save it to the CRM. The business owner can just hop into the CRM and it's got all information about the lead is well researched, it's research about their company, and they've also then got a draft response that they can use to send it back. Something that I want to point out in this example is I've chosen a very specific section of this business process to automate. If you wanted to take this process or this agent a bit further, what you could do is, instead of saving that draft email response to the CRM, you could add on more tools which automatically sends out the email and does the conversations with the lead, and it can also end up with the agent facilitating them to book in the lead into the business owner's calendar. So that could be a few different actions that you can add on to expand the functionality and really automate it and make this hands off. So for this example, I've connected my agent to a type form, and you can connect this to anything else. So you can connect this to a form on your website, or you can have this triggered based on messages or emails. So I'm going to start off by filling out a name. In this example, I'm just going to use Bill Gates. Yep, so my name is Bill Gates. My email is billgates@microsoft.com. And what's the query? So I need help with building AI solutions. So for the sake of this example, we're going to pretend that Bill Gates is approaching our small tech company and needs help building AI solutions. So as soon as I hit submit here, this inquiry is going to be sent off straight to the agent and it's going to start working on it. So I'm going to hit submit and there it goes. So let's have a look at the AI agent now. As you can see, we've hopped into Relevance AI. We can find the task that is set up. So every time your agent is provided with the lead details, it will count as a task. And within each task, you'll see what are the tools that are being executed. So here we can see we've had the lead researcher tool executed. We've done the scoring. The agent has created the draft response, and it's finished up with the tagging as well. And I'm going to spend a bit more time explaining what tagging means. But as you can see here, it's given us an output response saying it's successfully processed the lead. So we've got details from Bill Gates. We've got the company. So it's done the research on the lead. It's done the research on the lead's company. And it's also written out an email specifically tailored for Bill Gates and Microsoft. So if we have a look at HubSpot, our CRM, we can see that firstly, it's created an entry for Bill Gates for name, email, so all the details. It's also saved the query. Then we've got a job title. We've got the job description. We also then have LinkedIn account. We've got lead scoring done here as well, the company, and then we move on to the company details, the industry software, all of that information. And we've also got the draft email. As you can see, the agent has completed the task successfully. And in the dashboard itself, we can see all of the details of the tasks that have been completed. And after a task is usually completed, you can come back and have a look at the dashboard and have a look at all of your other tasks that that your agent would have received, and you can cycle through them and see what responses that you get. Let's hop into Relevance AI now and walk you through how the agent's set up and all of the tooling. Before we hop right into that, I just want to take a quick minute to do a walkthrough of the interface for Relevance AI and just give a run through in terms of where everything is set up. So when you do create your account and log in, you'll see a screen something like this. So at the top left corner here, you'll have your workspaces and your projects. So if you have more than one project, you'll see you have one. Then you'll have your settings tab here. This is where you can do manage your billing and your projects. Here you can create like another project. I don't need to. You can also delegate access to different team members. So if you're working as part of a bigger team and you've got this one account and you want to share it between different team members and manage their access, you can do so in the settings here. Going back to the main page again, you've got another link here for templates. One of the things I really like about Relevance AI is they've got a whole heap of templates for agents and for tooling. So here you can see they've got a customer query handler, they've got a voice agent query, a research assistant, FAQ writer, you've got content writer, and then if you're just down, it's got other tool templates as well, and they've got a whole heap of tools. So if you're getting started with building an agent or tools in Relevance AI, they've got a strong base of templates to get started with, and you can choose a template which is most relevant to you. So then we come back to the agents page here. I've got my inbound agent, which I'll be walking through very soon. You've got the tools page. So this is where I've got all of my tools set up, and you can create your tools independent to your agent. Your tools are not tied down to the agent, which is another thing that I really like. And the benefit of this is if you've got one tool that you need to use across multiple agents, you can create it once and then just use it across your agents, which I think is a real way of setting it up. And some platforms, they tie your tools to the agent itself, and it's hard to differentiate, which is really good. And we've got the knowledge base here. You can create here. So that there's two different types of knowledge bases that you can add in Relevance AI. This knowledge base here is more so on that overall level, where you can think of this as like a database, whereas the other sort of knowledge base that you can add is through the tools, and I'll be covering that a little bit later in the video. And that the tooling knowledge base is more specific to the tools itself. Then here you've got your activity center and your analytics, which you can have a click on to monitor all of your analytics and the activities. And then lastly, we've got the integration page. Now, this is the cool thing about Relevance AI is it's got a whole heap of it's got a whole heap of integration options that you can choose from. And as you can see here, you've got Google, Microsoft, Salesforce, all of that. The other cool thing is you're not tied down to using the LLMs provided by Relevance AI, whether that's Open AI or any of the other ones. You can actually put in your custom keys and you can choose whichever that you want. So I've got my key here for Open AI. And the benefit of doing this is it's just going to save you some tokens. So if you were to use the LLM OpenAI service through Relevance, it's going to cost you extra tokens on top of whatever tokens it's going to cost to run your tools. I believe on my plan or your base free plan is it costs you 4 credits per tool run. So if you think about doing your tool run plus adding the LLM credits to that, it all stacks up. So I personally find it much easier and much better to just put in my own API key and then just keep the token count per step to 4 credits. So it just makes it easier to calculate. And one of the cool things about Relevance AI is in terms of pricing, it is quite beginner friendly. You may have seen on the sign up page that it starts off at free and then the next plan is $200. Once you've actually logged in and if you hit upgrade, you're going to chat. Then you have the option to sign up to the pro account, which is $19 per month. And then that gets you 10,000 credits per month, which is more than enough for all of your projects to start off with. If you're a team which actually needs more credits, that's when I would actually recommend you sign up for the team or the business one. But if you're just a beginner and you're playing around, you can start off by the free account. 100 credits doesn't actually get you a whole lot, but it will give you a flavor for the platform. And you might be able to get in a couple of runs for the agents or the tooling. But definitely would recommend the pro account if you want to take this a bit more seriously and build out agents and tools which are actually going to have real impact to your business. Let's hop into the agent page where I'm going to walk you through the agent setup and how I've set up the prompt. So here on the agent, we're going to go it, and using this page, this is how I'm going to be customizing my agent. In the agent profile page, you can click a little avatar for the agent, which is quite nice. You can give it a name and the agent description. So in this case, my agent is researching the inbound leads, it's performing scoring, and then it creates a response email. This is just to give you an idea of what the agent's doing. If you're using multi-agents, that's where the agent description becomes a lot more important, because here other agents will see the description and then understand when to trigger it and when not to. So when you're combining different agents, that's where the description is very important for teamwork. And next here, we've got the integrations for the triggers. So you can have, you can using Outlook, Gmail for your emails. You can also do it through your CRMs, WhatsApp, and there's a few other options here for the trigger as well. So in the case of this example here, we used an API to do the trigger, and I'll be walking you through exactly how you do the triggering itself at the end of the video. Next, we go into the core instructions. So here we've got a very specific format for the agent prompt. And this is something that I've found out from Liam Otley's channel, and he's really good at this sort of stuff where he created a specific template for AI agents and the prompt you should use. So here you can see this agent is a specialized lead manager who's going to be researching inbound leads, and then they'll be creating custom reply based on the request and then save it to the CRM. Then I like to go to the task. So the task then tells us about its job, what it's meant to be doing. So here we give it some context in terms of how it's going to be triggered and what information it's going to be sent. So it's going to be sent the name, the query email address, and the HubSpot ID. So after that, we're going to tell it what steps it needs to take. So it needs to be researching the lead and their company. It's going to do the scoring. And then finally, it's going to perform a draft email and save it to the CRM. We've established the role. The next part is the tooling. And as if you don't include the tools here, the AI agent's not actually going to know what tools it has at its disposal. So we've got three tools in this example. So the first one is the lead researcher tool. So this tool will research the lead and their company, and all the other research information will be returned back to you. We also mentioned that this is the first tool we want the agent to use when the lead submits the contact form. Then we've got the lead scoring tool. As the name suggests, it's going to be doing the scoring, and same, then we tell it what are the inputs it's going to get, and we're going to say that we expect this tool to run second in the order of things. And lastly, we've got the draft response tool, and this tool is going to draft a response to based on the information and the knowledge base of the email to draft a response and then save it to the CRM. And we just like to mention that this is the last tool to run in the sequence. So, and then finally, it's always a good thing to finish off with notes. And here we're going to say to it that make sure you're professional when you're executing all your tools. I always like to include this note here. It just helps to round out the agent. One of the really important things to understand is this is a very simple agent. However, some of your more complicated agents, you might have 5 or 6 tools here. The tasks that there might be a bit more complex. You might even have an example here in the prompt, how it should interact in specific scenarios or situations. And at that point, this notes section becomes really important because the longer your prompt gets, there's a high chance that whatever you've written in the middle is going to be lost. And there are research papers based on this. So the notes section always becomes a good place to add in those important sort of constraints or those deal don't want the agent to do. And once you put it there, the accuracy and sort of the response is better. So we're going to then move on. So then we're going to move on to Flow Builder. So this is a very interesting concept that Relevance AI has, and I haven't seen this on any other platforms that I've used. Got a starting point, and you can give it certain instructions to divert. You can give it certain instructions on how you want it to go, operate, and guide it. So here we've got 3 sets of instructions. The first one is we're going to say when you get triggered, start off by executing the lead researcher tool. Then we're telling it your next one is the scoring tool. And then finally, you're going to be running the draft email response tool. And this really complements the prompt and serves as a fail switch in case the agent doesn't actually use the right tool at the right amount of time. And for the sake of this example, it's not really going to matter much because even if we didn't have this flow builder, the agent would still be able to perform. However, when you have more complicated systems, more tooling, this sort of flow builder becomes a lot more important to make sure your agent is using the tools that you want it to use. Then the next part is having a look at the abilities and specifically the label tasks. So this is also another unique feature that AI has, where you can have labels for each of your tasks or all of your tools. I've got 3 labels here. I've got the lead research, scored, and drafted. And once each of those is finished executing, I'll get a message saying this tool is finished running. The next part is probably one of the most important parts of this video is the tooling. So for each tool, I can decide how I want it to run. So at the moment, they're all set on auto run. But if I was to click this, I've actually got the option if I want approval for it, or I can let the agent decide. And to actually explain why you would need this approval required, if you had this agent sending out the draft emails directly to the client and you wanted to actually review them before they went out, you would have to select approval required. So before it's actually able to send out that email, the business owner would then review the email, make sure that they're okay with it, and then they hit send. And this sort of feature is quite useful if you've just set up your agent and you're not as confident, or you don't have that trust in the agent just yet. So in the first few runs, you can have it set to require approval, see what are the outputs you're getting from the agent. Once you're confident in it, once you're happy with the outputs that you're getting, you can just have it set to auto run. And then that way the agent can just go off and do its thing. We've also got another section here for prompt in terms of how you want your agent to use this tool. I haven't filled it out for the sake of this example, but this will give it a bit more extra context for the agent tool in the way you want it to. And this is probably a bit more useful when you have a bit more of a complicated system. If you do have, speaking of complicated systems, you don't want your agent to have too many tools. I've got 3 here. I think in my experience and opinion, it'd be good to have maybe another 1 or 2 tools for this agent. If I was to add 10 more tools here, it would be much wiser to actually split this out into a multi-agent system. And this is where we come to sub-agents. So I can add new agents here and have each agent handle very specific tasks. That way I can actually isolate problems if they do come up. If something is failing, you can restrict it. You can quickly identify and restrict the problem to a specific agent. So that becomes a lot easier from like a developing and debugging perspective. That's just a good design technique. All of your design is modular and it's not all just crammed into sort of one agent or one tool. Then you've got some advanced settings, which we haven't really used in this example here. You can set your language model, whichever one that you want to use. So I've set mine to OpenAI through Relevance AI itself. You get all of these options. You've got an OpenAI, you've got, and you can also choose Azure as well if that's something that you want. And then lastly, you can do some configuring of your templates. Haven't really touched it much for this example, but that's something that you can look into if you need it. So once your agent's built, there's a couple of ways to deploy it. So let's just say if we didn't actually want to trigger it, if we wanted to just share it with a client, or if we wanted to deploy it on the website, there's a couple of ways of doing it. Once you're on this once you're using this agent, there's the share button up here. And once you click that, you'll get a couple of options. So if you want to embed agent on the website, you can just copy this iframe and paste it in your website code, and your agent will then be embedded within your website. If you just want to share it with your client, gives you a link here, so we can copy that to here. You'll have a new agent open up a tab, and this is a good way to share it with your clients, and they can start using it and utilizing it. It's also a good way to test it out as well. Now let's have a look at all of the tools in a bit more detail. So we're going to start off with the lead researcher tool, which is the first one that's going to run in our series of tools. I'm just going to open it up here. This is one of the really cool things that I do like about Relevance AI is whenever you open up a new tool, you've actually got the option to use it. And the really good thing about this is it gives you a chance to debug the tool as well. So you don't need to you don't need to write other tests or anything else. It's all there in one screen. You can also choose to run the tool in bulk. So what that means is right now we've been providing it one lead name, one email address, one query, and then it's going to take that information and then run it for that one person. You might have examples or scenarios where you might need to run 100 names or 1,000 names all at once to get all of that information. And this allows you to run it in bulk. You can also trigger this tool via an API. We won't be using this for the sake of the sample, but if you're using another AI platform, or if you want to trigger this specific tool from somewhere else, you can use APIs to do that. So if we go into the build section now, the way the tool interface is set up is it's got three distinct sections. First one is the knowledge, where we can insert a knowledge base. Then you've got the user inputs, and this is the section where what are the inputs our agent is going to have for this specific tool. So we have the name of the lead, the email, and the HubSpot ID. This description is quite important as it helps the program understand what is the name of the variable. And this becomes really important when you've got multiple tools, and it helps the agent understand which variable needs to go where. Then the next part is where you actually build out your actions. So starting off, the way this tool is broken up is we do the lead research first, then we do the company research, and then all of that information is combined and then saved to HubSpot. So starting off with, we've got first step here, which is an LLM step. We're going to ask it to extract the domain name from the email address. And we've got a here, and we've just given an example in terms of what we can expect. Once it gets the response, it's going to save it to that website variable. Next thing that we're going to be doing is we're going to take that company and we're going to take the name of that contact, and we're going to do a Google search query. Another cool thing about Relevance AI is you can do Google searches straight through here. So you don't need to actually write a custom function, or you don't need to use a separate API to do the Google search. It's already built in. So we're going to do a Google search. The goal of this one is we want to find out their LinkedIn URL. So once we get that LinkedIn URL, we've got another prompt here, which is going to take their name. It's going to take their company website, and we've given it their name, we've given it their company website, and we're saying using that information, you need to identify this person based on a bunch of Google search results that we're going to give you. And then we tell it a few list of criterias in terms of how to actually identify the profile. We tell it, make sure if it's got /post or company, it's not actually a user profile. It needs to have /in. That's one profile, a few notes on that. And then from that, we get the LinkedIn URL of the person. Next step is now we actually need to get information from the person's LinkedIn. So we feed in the URL, and again, it's got a function set up where we can choose what we want. So in this case, you can get the user's post profile, or you can get the company posts in the profiles. You want to get the user's profile, so we get that and then save it to the website. The next, we've got another LLM step. The main part of this step is to take all of the information that comes through from that scraping function that we did just above, and output it. We want it to be in a very specific format. So out of all the information that comes in, what we really care about is what is the job title of that person, what's their work profile summary, and yeah, so those are the only two things. And then we tell it this is the data that you have, and this is what you need to analyze. Give it a few more notes, and then lastly, we're going to take all of that information and we're going to convert it to a JSON, which just makes it easier to work with. In a similar fashion, then we move on to the company research. We start off, so we do a Google search of the company name. Then using that, we get a we get a LinkedIn URLs. Based off that, we find the correct company URL, the LinkedIn URL. Then we do a scrape of their company profile, similar to the one above. We want to then get the right information, or the information that we care about. So in this case, it's going to be the company's name, the industry that they're in, and the company's summary. And also importantly, the amount of employees that the company has. Then we take all of that, we convert that into a JSON. And then lastly, we come down to this HubSpot API call. If you recall at the start, we had a HubSpot ID that was fed into this function as an input. And that's really important because at this point, we've already had our HubSpot entry created. So we then need to send it through here. We've got, I've got a HubSpot account. You can sign up to it for free, and it's actually really good that you can use for free. You don't really have to pay anything for it. You can find the correct pathway if you go into the HubSpot documentation. Here, this is the URL, update an entry. As I've already created one, so I don't need a new one. So this number here, this is just taking the HubSpot ID that we've fed into this tool. Properties that I'm looking to save out of this tool to my CRM are your job title, the lead's job description, their LinkedIn account, the company's information, the industry, and their company size. So all of this information is then going to be saved straight to the CRM. And the last section for all tools is the output. Now, this is one of the really important parts. If you've got different tools that actually depend on the output of this tool, you need to make sure that you've included all of the outputs. If you've selected the output for this, you've selected the output variable. In order to do that, you just need to hit click add and then select whatever variable that you want from your tool and just hit enter on that. And then it will have that variable as an output. I want to start off by talking about Typeform. So you can create a free account, go in, create a few form entries. So I've got a very basic form here, which asks for name, email address, and the query itself. In order to connect that form to my agent, I've used make.com in this example. I've got a very simple flow setup. I've got a Typeform module, which is watching the response. So once the form is submitted, it's going to instantly know. And I've connected it with my account here, and you can do the same. It's then going to take that information. So it's going to take first name that comes through. It's going to take the email and the query, and it's then going to create in the CRM. And then lastly, we've got an API call here. So now this is the API call that will be used to trigger the AI agent. And we're going to use a post method here. Post methods are generally used when you want to send information to an API, where we're using a few content headers. We're using 2 content headers here and the authorization. Don't worry too much about this. I'll be covering how to do this towards the end of the video when we get to the integration part. But I just wanted to start off with make.com to show you the flow of how data is going and the logical steps to make the agent. Lastly, we're sending through a whole bunch of which is the first name, the email, the query, and most importantly, this is the contact ID that we have. So this is the ID of the entry that we've created in this second step here. Now let's go to the tool dashboard for the agent. The second tool that we have is the scoring tool. Let's open that up. So here, let's go into build. So here we've got a very similar setup to the previous tool. This is a less complicated tool. The inputs to this one are your number of employees, your company name, and the HubSpot ID. One thing that I have done here and in other tools as well, in terms of the variable names and the descriptions of the variable, I've tried to keep them consistent across. So it just helps the agent understand what are the variables that you're trying to provide, and it will give you a lot more consistent answers as well. So scrolling down, we've only got 2 steps here in this agent. What it's doing is it's performing the lead scoring based on the number of employees a company has. This is a very basic check. If you're building this out in production, I would encourage you to look up a few more criterias in terms of how you want to perform the scoring. For the sake of example, we're going to keep it simple. It's just to know how this tooling works. So we've got a criteria. If it's between 0 and 20 employees, we're going to rate that lead a 10. Between 20 to 50, it's a 25. And then all the way, if it's more than employees, it's 100. That just means, they've got employees and they'll be good as a client. And we give it the company name, the number of employees, and we've just got an example here. So we're going to say Amazon. Company name's Amazon, number of employees is 40, and the output that we're expecting by this criteria is just 25, and just want it to output the number itself and nothing more. Then we've got another API call to make where it's going to save it to the CRM. One thing I forgot to mention in the previous tool is you may have seen the method here is a patch. It was a similar method before as well for the previous tool. You may have seen in make.com when we're making an API call, we used a post request. And I said, you use a post request if you want to send information. So there's specific API standards and the way APIs are built, a post request is only used if you're creating a record for the first time. Since we already have a record created in HubSpot, we're going to be using a patch request, which means that it's going to be updating that record, which is already created. So here, all that we're going to be updating is just the lead score variable. And then finally, we've got the tool output where we're just outputting the lead score answer. And then lastly, we've got our draft email response tool. Here we've got a few more inputs. So we've got the name, the email, their query, the company's summary and ID. So as you can see, I've kept the descriptions and names consistent with some of those previous variables that we had. This information is going to be coming from those previous tool steps. This is another small function, a bit of a long prompt. So what we're doing is we're giving it the lead's name, that they've asked, and we've also given them the company detail. What we've asked it to do is just write a professional and personalized email based on that information. And we've given it some requirements here. So we've said start off reading, acknowledge it's a small framework essentially. And then we've provided an example of how and what that email should look like and sound like. And what I would encourage to you, not just here, but in general, when you are writing your prompts, it's really important to provide it an example. When you do provide an example to any agent, the outputs that you're going to get are going to be so much better because it actually has a baseline to compare against and what you're expecting. And then finally, we're just going to finish off with a few notes. Once we have that, we then make an API call. Similarly here, it's another patch request, and we're just updating the CRM with our draft email response. You may have noticed I don't have any outputs here because this is the last tool in the sequence. We don't need to output anything. Now that we have all of our tools built, you may be wondering, this is all well and fun, but how do I actually connect this agent to my type form, or how do I connect this agent to my website? What we're going to be doing is we're going to be having a look at some of these integration options here. So in this example, we're going to go with the API option as that's going to be connected to Make. The way you add connection via API is, so firstly, you need to have your headers for the API, and then you need to have the request body. So if we go back to make.com and open up our API request box here. So firstly, we need the URL itself, and the URL, you can get it from this endpoint. So this endpoint here is your URL. So if you copy that and paste it into Make, that will be fine. Then the next thing you need are your headers. The way you can get your headers is have a look at this box here, and you can see your first header is content type. The answer that you need to put down for that one is application JSON. So if we go back to make.com, my first header is content type, and then the value is application and JSON. And then my second header type is authorization. And then the value that I'm going to have is your API key. So if you want API key, you just need to hit this button here. It's going to be, just copy that, and you just copy that. And we go back to make.com. So you put in your name and you put in your key as well. So then you have your headers sorted and you've got your authorization sorted. Now you want to actually send the message and the variables across through to Relevance AI. You need to hit, for body type, you need to hit raw. Content type is JSON, as we've mentioned that in the headers that the API is going to be sending across a JSON file. So that's how the system knows what to expect. And then in your content message type, there's a specific Relevance AI has told us to do. So if we go back here, look at this request body section here, you can just copy for that and then go back to make.com. So then you've got your message, your role, user, all the stuff. So instead of hello there, I've gotten rid of that. And then I've put in lead name and then my variable. So then lead email address, lead query, and then the HubSpot ID contact. And then the agent ID and all of that stuff should be the same as we've copied that across. And once you've got all of that, you can just hit OK. And with that, your agent will be linked up to make.com. If you enjoyed this video, please leave us a like below and subscribe to my channel for more use cases and latest updates on generative AI. If you want to access all of the files that I've used in this video, you can find them in the description below. If you have any specific ideas or use cases that you'd want to see, feel free to drop them in the comments below and I can have a look at that as one of the next few videos to think about. If you want to work with me, you can use the link in the description or in the comments to book in a call with me and discuss any use cases or any ideas that you may want to have implemented for your business. If you want to check out another cool AI use case, be sure to watch this video here, where I take you through how to deploy an AI agent onto WhatsApp and connect it with tools made in Relevance AI. If you want to check out how to actually implement an AI solution over voice call, be sure to check out this video here, where I've built an AI agent that calls my leads and performs validation on them. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.